Welcome to the Central Michigan Climate Solutions Summit, brought to you by the Mount Pleasant Citizens Climate Lobby in coordination with Central Michigan University. Each day, we get closer and closer towards the effects of climate change becoming more damaging and permanent, which is why each day it's more important to have the tough discussions about what must be done to reduce and eventually eliminate emissions so that we can reverse the climate crisis. This may seem like a daunting task, and that's because it is. But I have full confidence that if we as a society have these conversations about the solutions to our problems and act accordingly, we will make it out of this all right. I would also like to recognize the Anishinaabe people today. Even via a Zoom format, this summit has heavy ties to Central Michigan University, which resides on the traditional ancestral land of the Anishinaabe people. In the spirit of collaboration, as well as Indigenous Peoples Day, which was celebrated earlier this week, the planning committee of this event would like to say Buju and welcome. I'd also like to remind everyone here that standing up for environmental justice is standing up for Native American justice. As climate warriors, we must not just recognize the past injustice of land exploitation for Native peoples, but demand that this must not happen again. Just as many other vulnerable populations are unequally affected by climate change, Native land must be protected from those who wish to see its value as nothing but the fossil fuels that it may sit on. Thank you for coming to the Central Michigan Climate Solutions Summit. You make the difference.
Good morning. We want to welcome you to the Central Michigan Climate Solutions Summit. I am Marie Coper, Community Coordinator for this initiative, and we are so pleased to have you with us today. With the damaging impacts of climate change becoming ever more obvious and science showing that we need to reduce CO2 emissions at least by 45% in the next 10 years, and then to net zero in the 20 years after that in order to have a stable world, many people, especially young people, want to engage in solutions. But what solutions and how? For this first-time university community collaboration, we'll have a sampling of solutions underway in our area with panels from Central Michigan University and the community. We thank all the panelists who are giving so generously of their time to share the solutions they're implementing, several of which you can be a part of. We also thank the chat monitors who are volunteering their time to collect your questions in each session. The summit will conclude with Dr. Andrew Hoffman, Wholesome U.S. Professor of Sustainable Enterprise at the University of Michigan. He'll be enlightening us on solutions to climate change in our culture and in the market. Nassau put it well. Because climate change is a truly global, complex problem with economic, social, political, and moral ramifications, the solution will require both a globally coordinated response and local efforts on the city and regional level. What better laboratory to study and implement solutions that cross all disciplines than a university and the community around it? Let us begin that enterprise today. Liz?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Central Michigan Climate Solutions Summit. I'm Dr. Liz Bradshaw, Professor of Sociology. I've been the campus coordinator, co-coordinator for this event. This event has really been a year-long process. We initially conceived the summit to be in person back in March, but because of the pandemic, we had to reschedule it virtually. Because of the committed efforts of students, faculty, staff, and community members, that has really made this possible. I'd like to particularly recognize a few student leaders. Without their dedication and devotion and their passion, this event wouldn't be possible. So specifically, I'd like to thank Max Ranger and Chloe Majeski. The two of them have been actively involved in attending all of our meetings, providing important input to all of our decisions. I'd also like to thank Teresa Hamzi and Eric Urbaniak, who've been working through Central Sustainability to create our website, to create promotional video for the event, as well as helping create the RSO tabling videos that you've seen. I'd also like to thank graphic design student Michaela Drum, who created our lovely logo with the Climate Solution Summit and the light bulb there. And also, I would like to finally thank Christian Terpstra, who's been working behind the scenes to make sure that everything goes smoothly today. So without all of their help, we really wouldn't have been able to bring this together. So we've assembled a team of experts from CMU to address the question, what are we doing here at CMU to both implement and address solutions to climate change. Panelists will have 10 minutes to respond to the question, and then we will open it up for questions from the audience. So if any questions occur to you during this time, feel free to please put them in the chat function, and Kelly Lawson, who is an academic advisor for the College of Health Professions, will pose those questions to the panelists after everyone has spoken. So we're going to go in the following order. We'll start off hearing from President Bob Davies. Next, we'll hear from Jay Kahn, who's the Director of Sustainability for Facilities Management on campus. Then we'll hear from Dr. Gaksel Demirer, who is a Professor of Environmental Engineering. And finally, we'll hear from Chloe Majeski, who's a student majoring in meteorology. So to begin, President Davies, can you please tell us, what is CMU doing to implement and promote solutions to climate change?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Bradshaw. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to talk about what CMU is doing. Before I do that, I also want to thank you and Marie for providing such leadership and coordinating with the university and the community, and obviously Max Granger and Chloe Majeski from the student side, true student leaders making a significant difference in the lives here at Central Michigan University, making our university better, which is obviously impacting many other individuals. I also really appreciate the tabling that occurred. Central votes, take back the tap, Phi Chi Theta, really making a difference from the student perspective in moving this forward in many different ways. I've had chances to interact with all three of those organizations on various levels. I remember the Take Back the Tap last fall, doing a tabling at the library, and really convinced me to now always use a glass water bottle and not the plastic water bottle. So they do have amazing impact. And then you introduced me as an expert in sustainability. I am not. I happen to work with experts, and I'm very happy to be joined today on this panel discussion by two experts, three experts, Jay Kahn, Dr. Demirer, and Chloe Majeski. They're the experts. I get the opportunity to learn from them. I get the opportunity to seek their guidance, their wisdom, along with many other faculty and staff and students. And again, I think this panel is fantastic in that it does bring a student, a faculty member, and a staff member to show how we coordinate those efforts. So when I get to talk about what CMU is responding, it's not because of what I'm doing, it's because what our faculty staff are doing. And to start off with, I think that the mission of Central Michigan University is disseminating knowledge, education. It is creating knowledge, research, and it's applying that knowledge. And that is through our connections to the community and the services and the things that we do there. And Marie, you said it perfectly when you quoted the quote from NASA. This is not a single entity issue. It is a combination of environmental studies, science studies, engineering studies, humanities studies, business studies. That's why I think it's phenomenal that Phi Chi Theta business fraternity sees the importance of sustainability, because it is everybody coming together. And so with CMU on the educational front, we are creating dozens of courses and disciplines that range from biology to business. And many of these are interdisciplinary that address sustainability and climate. One of the things that I'm proud of is our entrepreneurial program really brings in this whole notion of sustainability in building business models for various organizations to move forward. We also need to add social justice into the discussion of sustainability as it's related to power, access, and obviously inclusion. Environmental health and safety and environmental programs, which I know Dr. Demirer will talk at greater length later in his presentation, is essential to these discussions. We also have co-curricular programs in the registered student organizations that we just saw some tabling exercises from. Again, Take Back the Tap, Student Environmental Alliance, and many others that I know Chloe will also have a discussion on. Research. We have wonderful partnerships throughout with many organizations. DT Energy and Sustainability Energy Projects is probably at the forefront right now and the most visible on campus with the way that they supported a solar power station that also serves as a place that, when the weather's nice, to have lunch and have student gatherings right out. We're looking forward to more opportunities with DTE to have more of those powering stations throughout our campus. The Great Lakes Research and Biological Station on Beaver Island, and the amazing work that they are doing there through grants from the federal government in excess of $10 million in an ongoing process. And through through our fashion design program, which is really interesting because they're doing less toxic and biodegradable flammable retardants and various other things in those areas. On the service side, and it's so wonderful to see, I know Mayor Joseph is on the line, the city manager, Nancy Ridley's on the line, the collaboration that we have with the city of Mount Pleasant, as well as Isabella County to address transportation, energy, recycling programs, and everything else along those lines. And then thinking broader across the region, we have a relationship with the Great Lakes Bay Regional Alliance to look for sustainable approaches to tourism and to also bring in industries that have the same commitment to sustainability and the lessening of the impact on climate as that we do. And then also with our partnership with the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe to reduce waste, both at the casino and a major project that's being undertaken by our students and working with the Underwood Continuing Care Community and Elder Services, in which they've actually received not only local and statewide recognition, but national recognition. We will continue to address climate and sustainability because it must first begin in our own campus. Proud that the leadership is coming from the students, the Mac Rangers, the Chloes of CMU, along with faculty and staff, and also obviously my fellow panelists. The important first step is always be mindful of our own CMU's patterns and behaviors in developing strategies to reduce our carbon footprint while making efficient use of our resources. Water and energy conservation management is at the forefront. Through the work of our students, they pressed the need for the water bottle refilling stations, which I'm really happy because there's one right outside my office. So every day I go out there four or five times a day to go out there to refill the water. We've also partnered with the city for storm water management throughout the campus and our footprint, and also on the properties that are just adjacent to campus. Again, that partnership with the city is so very, very important. Recycling and waste management is another key issue. The use of biodegradable and reusable packing materials in our residential restaurants is absolutely essential. And again, that was an initiative brought forward by our students, showing us the way to move forward in that area. We also and I just signed it maybe 10 days ago, a new policy for CMU regarding purchasing and putting sustainability of those companies that we contract with and buy services from to have sustainability of their efforts as part of the bidding process. We also are continuing to increase in our own recycling and composting efforts. And again, the expert on that is not me. The expert is that is Kahn, and I know that he will talk a lot about that as in his discussion. Sustainable transportation and reducing our greenhouse gas emissions is another important part that CMU is moving forward on. And through that, we're purchasing environmentally friendly custodial products and Energy Star related appliances, and also managing our motor fleet in a very different way. And also with our own construction, green building and remodeling is essential. We strive to have every new building and every new remodel be LEED certified. And the most prominent one right now is in the bioscience building, the CHP expansion and renovations. All are achieving high levels of LEED certification. And then also we'll be beginning to go through campus and looking at our HVAC systems to make sure that they're more energy efficient and upgrades to those systems as well. Our systems are very, very old, and it's important that we upgrade those. All of these require an investment, and that upfront expense does pay off. We know that sustainability is cost saving. It is requires an investment, but we also know that over the time, over decades, that we will be able to save money through these efforts. Just measuring over the last decade through the cost saving through sustainability, we received over $10 million through sustainable efforts related to energy use, water and sewer management, as well as recycling and composting alone. And that's $10 million that we can specifically identify. As part of those efforts, we're also submitted our STARS report. The STARS stands for the Sustainability Tracking, Assessment, and Rating System. And we are expecting to achieve a gold level. That is an important aspect of all of our efforts and something that we're very, very committed to and excited about. Some other elements that we're excited about is that we've been recognized as EPA's 2019 WaterWise University Partner of the Year. So again, we are making great strides, but there's also a lot of work to do. We continue to break down the silos. You can imagine a university has many silos, but we're breaking them down between the academic departments and non-academic service units and student organizations. So our efforts are occurring in concert versus isolation to create those synergies and to create the work of making it a university-wide community effort. And also with collaboration that spurs innovation, as we've seen through many works with Kahn and the students and faculty members. And also as we think about the university, it's about creating a culture of sustainability. We pride ourselves in graduating leaders. That's what we say a lot. And to do that, we must be at the forefront of climate change and have a personal social responsibility to ourselves and others. We always remind ourselves of the impacts that we have on others in our community. We continue to educate ourselves about the problems facing our area. I've been a very vocal about being innovative and creative to solve these problems, and doing so with integrity, respect, and innovation in our words and behaviors. And that too applies directly to climate change. Continue to be good stewards of our wonderful but limited resources that we enjoy. And finally, we all recognize that we can and should and will be positive agents of change. And that is choosing to lead and to be at the forefront of this type of discussion. Again, to me, that's why we have wonderful experts on our campus that move this agenda forward in many, many and meaningful ways. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to the true experts and allow them to say all the great things that they are doing. And I get to have a joy of watching them achieve the great success that they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Davies. I really appreciate you sharing all of the, an overview of the initiatives we're taking on here at CMU. Next up, we have Kahn, who is the Director for Sustainability for Facilities Management here on campus. So Jay, can you tell us, what are we doing here at CMU to help address and promote solutions to the climate crisis?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, first is Boss's Day. So I'd like to say happy Boss's Day to my big boss, President Bob Davies, and thank you very much for your leadership and your vision and your support for all our sustainability efforts on campus and beyond campus. It's really made the difference, and we use your name in vain all the time, so we appreciate that.
Thank you very much. It's all, again, it's my joy to support you. I firmly believe that I work for you because you are the expert. But thank you very much. Have a great day.
So I'd like to start out by sharing something that I did not do, but it's meaningful to me. I'm going to share this screen. Okay, so this is a medicine wheel that was created around our efforts at Underwood Elder Care Center by two tribal college students, Alyssa Grossman and Jeannie Snyder. And isn't it beautiful? This was turned into a placemat that was used on trays over at the Elder Care Center. And very clever. So I think most people are used to the phrase reduce, reuse, and recycle. But we were really throwing in some composting challenges over at Underwood, and we ended up composting 6 tons of food waste. But instead of composting, they're using the word return. So instead of the 3 R's, it's the 4 R's. And this really shows our collaboration off campus with our community partners and really achieving some beautiful, long-lasting results community-wide. And we had a cultural exchange as well. We went to Zebra Wing Center. We were invited to a dinner over at Seventh Generation where we were able to sample some indigenous food. It was really just an amazing experience for our CMU students, and I'm sure a our college tribal partners got a lot out of it too. It was just one of the highlights of my year last year. And so I get to do all the fun stuff. So I got to advance this. Okay, so sustainability. We're not new to this. We did a carbon footprint report about 10 years ago and documented all our efforts. Some of the things that we were doing on campus. We've been doing LEAD for a long time, which is leadership in building design. We've been promoting using bikes on campus, which is great because we got a parking problem. We had Campus Grow, where have student plots of land where students are growing their own vegetables. And down there in the corner is an old picture of Mike Walton looking at his solar array with Steve Esch. Okay, so 10 years ago, this is where we were. We were at about a little bit less than a 25% diversion rate. Each one of these columns is an entire year. We roll off 1 month, roll on another. We count everything. We got commercial scales. We weigh trash trucks. We weigh our compost. We weigh everything. It's great. If you're an engineer, this is the business you want to be in. So the brown chunk, that's what goes to the Harrison landfill. That costs us about $90 a ton. So the blue, that is what we recycle, and that costs us about $75 a ton. Up there is the green. Back 10 years ago, that cost us nothing because we were composting on campus. But today, composting costs us about a little bit more, like $42 a ton. So when President Davies says sustainability puts money back in your pocket, it's 100% accurate. Not only are you saving the environment, but you're saving your cash. Important. So this is the beginning of our composting project like 10 years ago. All student-based, student-run, student idea. Everything student was about it. And they even collect the food waste from the kitchens. And at the high point of this program, like 2 years later, I think we diverted like 70 tons in 2 years, which is a lot for a lot of handwork. And we had a little compost pile back around the football stadium that helped the campus grow activities as a soil amendment for student gardens. It's pretty cool. And that's Nicole Crossan working our compost pile. I think she graduated, went to Texas, did great things in education over there, and still doing great things. Okay, today we are really kind of our own hauler, our own commercial hauler for compost up to Morgan's Composting up in Sears. It's about 45 minutes northwest. And we compost about 330 at a high around 350 tons a year out of 5 kitchens, commercial kitchens on campus. We're collecting both pre-consumer and post-consumer waste, and we're still doing that in pandemic. Very important. And super important if you're concerned about greenhouse gas issues, because even though the numbers might not seem large, the methane that comes off of food waste is somewhere between 30 and I've seen reports is 80 times as powerful as what comes off of your car. So it's a very serious issue is food waste and the predominance of it in your waste stream, which we do waste audits all the time, and sometimes we're pulling out as high as 60% of the waste that still goes to Harrison landfill is food waste. Usually it's around 40%, but I've seen it as high as 60. So this is where we are today. And we've added a lot more product lines, so to speak, to what we do. So the blue, that's what goes to the Harrison landfill, and that's 1,500 tons. 10 years ago, it was 1,800 tons. So we took those 300 tons, and that's that little green speck over there that says 331. That's all our compost. The red, that's our bottles and cans that we collect in our maroon tanks around campus. And assorted recycling is the purple. No, the purple is mixed paper. Paper is an interesting issue for us. It's a product line. We don't lose any money on paper, but mostly we make money on paper. We have a commercial printing operation on campus, and we bale the waste paper and we sell it to paper brokers. It gets trucked off campus up to the UP, over to Menominee, and becomes paper again. We make about $10,000 a year selling scrap paper. We also make money selling plastic. So we have our own commercial warehouse, and when things come into campus, they're always palletized. They're palletized with shrink wrap. And we bale that too and sell it for 7 cents a pound. And we sell it to the people that we buy our trash can liners from. So it's kind of a full circle, like our composting program, where we send the food scraps to Morgan's Composting. We buy back the finished compost, and we use it as a soil amendment right here on campus. Also, a product line that is in this chart 10 years later that wasn't here 10 years ago is we are capturing the weights that come off of our surplus sale. We do surplus sales monthly, and that's a reuse. It should be counted. This is students at Ondewad Elder Care Center doing a waste audit. That's what we did last year, and it was cold, man. This is students presenting their project to tribal council. That was exciting for us. You know, when students get to stand up in front of a government body and do a presentation, you know, that's a resume bullet. This is such great experience, real world experience for our students, tribal college students. That's what we're in the business of doing, is education. It's a big part of it. Okay, shout out to Food Pantry on campus. So when we're talking about composting, we want to take a look at the upside down pyramid of EPA food reduction. And, you know, when we're talking about farm to fork, we're losing about 40% of the product in that supply chain. And when we're combining that with the social justice issue of food insecurity, you cannot avoid having a conversation about food insecurity when you're talking about food waste. And so I want to give a shout out to our food pantry on campus. It is an essential part of our community, and it is an essential part of our greater community over at Strickland Center. They do a lot of wonderful things over there. And for you social justice warriors out there, I want you to know you're being heard, and we are acting in those vital missions. So this is our 7 cents a pound. So we package up that stretch film out of the warehouse, and our students do all this work. Students do all the work. We're kind of staff mentors, pointing them in the right direction, but they're doing all the work. And we sell we probably make less than $500, but it's not going to the landfill. And that baler only cost us $4,000, so we're going to make that back pretty soon. We have a much larger paper bale for those waste scraps I was talking about off the printing press, we make about 10 grand a year off of that. And I think that only cost us 8. Okay, so here's some of the numbers from one of our business partners, Petoskey Plastics. You can see 30 barrels of oil not consumed. So that's our trash bags that we use, right? So we don't use virgin plastic. We use pre-consumer and post-consumer plastics in kind of a 3-layer plastic fabric that is very stretchable. It's a fantastic trash bag, and it's mostly recycled. So tailgating, we get to have a lot of fun in recycling. We get to go to tailgate games, do our outreach and education. That is my beautiful dog, Teddy Wan. He loves the tailgate. I think he likes the food, but he loves the people. Okay, so I know this looks bad, but it's not that bad. There's a good story behind this. So in the stadium, we blow down the trash after each game, and I want to point out that just about every item in here is compostable. And so we worked with all our supply partners, going right back to what President Davies is talking about that sustainable purchasing policy, and our partners work with us so those items can become this. Practically nothing going into the Harrison landfill. All of that went into our compost, which we brought back to campus as a finished soil amendment. And it was also part of Recyclemania, which they just changed their name this year to Campus Race to Zero Waste. Big shout out for that. You'll be hearing a lot more about that in the months to come. After we get back from winter break, we'll be kicking that off hot and heavy. But, it's a good story. So more students doing, this is a waste audit, and we do about 4 or 5 of them a year, and students are involved. We have to try to do it in a very public place so people can understand what is going on in their trash. This is Collins Awayjay, who's a grad student I had the pleasure of working with a few years ago, more than a few years ago. He was bag man. That was you run around and like a crazy person with this suit of bags. It gets a lot of attention, and then you can tell your story. This is Allie Shemansky. She's a recycling warrior. Great. I have the best job in the world. Chase Delore, doing more outreach and education. I think this was over at the UC. We're doing some tabling. We do a lot of outreach and education. So the thing with outreach and education is we turn over our student population. We matriculate them out. They grab their diploma. They leave. They do great things. They had Audrey Thielen. I think now she's a director over at Eagle. She started off right here at CMU as a president of a Student Environmental Alliance. This is like 10 years ago. And Chase really following in her footsteps along that. So it happens. But, the point here is that you graduate them and then you bring in new people. Here's the thing with recycling. It's very different in all parts of Michigan. So it depends on where your county is. Recycling in a metro, very different than recycling in a rural. And so you get them on campus. This is how we recycle at CMU. And this is how it's done. And so a lot of outreach and education all the way through the process. More Bag Monster. I think that's Heather capturing Nicole Crossan, who was just a huge help to this university and getting our programs off the ground. Free stuff. She was always about it. Okay, there's Mike Walton. So 25% of our purchased electricity comes from wind. Matter of fact, if I can move this, so I'm not looking at it. Okay, so also 50% of the electricity that we use, we make. We make in a lot of different ways off of our solar turbine, excess power. Before heat goes out the stack, we reharvest that and turn it into electricity. Oh, shoot, I wanted to pick on Mike some more. Okay, so this is an award show. We went to DC. That's Jonathan Webb, my boss, Chase Delore, myself at the end on the left. So we went to Washington, D.C. to pick up a national award for our sustainability efforts. We are nationally known for doing this stuff. It's a big deal. Some of the awards that we've won the Region 5 EPA Food Recovery Challenge. Our business partner, Aramark, has been fantastic in partnering with us. We won that award 14, 15, 16, 17. I don't know what happened in 18, but we were just back-to-back winner. Region 5 is all 6 of the Great Lakes states. We're leading the way. Last year in 2019, we won the national award from EPA, only given to one university. We were it. We were partner of the year, and I think President Davies spoke to this a little bit. We're on the stage when people talk nationally about sustainability and universities. You cannot do this by yourself. I have very, very little to do with this stuff. All I do is just kind of cheer people along and kind of point them in the right direction. But these are all the organizations that really, as President Davies is saying, the experts. I really don't consider myself an expert either. I just more of a cheerleader. Government's a big deal. ICMRF, that stands for Isabella County Municipal Recycle Facility, MPPS. I didn't have time to mention it, but we had a fantastic year-long experience with Mount Pleasant Public Schools. In the elementary schools, our students put together a grant called Recycling is Elementary. We went into all 5 elementary schools and made a difference. It was a year-long thing. They loved us. City of Mount Pleasant, of course, big partners. County government in Isabella, big partners. Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe, Tribal College, Eagle, US EPA. We play with all these people. Thank you to our corporate partners. You cannot do this without public and private support. Aramark, Morgan's Composting, Lansing Sanitary, KSS, Nichols Waste Management's huge for us. We weigh their trucks every single day. Batteries Plus, Petoskey's Plastics, that's where we buy our trash bags. Betco is we're also known in custodial for our green cleaning awards. We won the National Champion Award 10 years ago for our green cleaning program when most people didn't even know what green cleaning was. Thank you to faculty, staff, athletic department. We're partnering all across campus with all our colleges, all our staff members, all our buildings. There's not anybody on this campus that doesn't know that CMU is big into recycling, sustainability, waste reduction, and climate. Students, you can't do it without the students. I have some special people that I wrote their names in here. They've meant a lot to me throughout the years. And since it's National Bosses Day, I'm certainly mentioning my boss, Jonathan Webb, his boss, Nick Long, and his boss, Dr. Davies. All these people have been nothing but supportive in what we do, and this made my life easy, and it's made this a great place to work. And literally, I was putting this together last night, and there are literally hundreds of CMU students that have been part of this fantastic journey that it's really been a privilege of mine to come along. So that's all from me.
All right. Thank you very much, Jay. I really appreciate you sharing all the initiatives that are going on here on campus. I don't think that everyone often knows what's going on behind the scenes and all the hard work and effort that you put into this. And I really appreciated you stressing that the staff mentorship that goes on here, because the student initiative and the grassroots movements of students towards sustainability really are so key here on campus. Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Gaksel Demirer, who is a professor of environmental engineering and who really started our program of environmental engineering recently here at CMU. Gaksel, please tell us, what are we doing here at CMU to address and implement solutions to climate change?
Thank you, Dr. Bradshaw. Good morning, everybody. That's a privilege. I really appreciate the opportunity of sharing what we have been trying to do in terms of climate change and beyond. To do that, I am going to use a short presentation. Let me share it with you real quick. I hope everybody is able to see it. Okay, thank you. I will mainly talk about waste management in its relation to climate change. But before that, I will start with a very brief introduction in terms of unsustainable trends in terms of production and consumption. Then I will mention about the role of environmental engineering in all this, and our very new program here at CMU, Environmental Engineering Program. And I will have a couple concluding remarks, but unfortunately, I have to leave right after my talk because I have a class at 10, but probably I will make it a little late to my class, so I'm sorry about that. For any kind of questions, please email me. And again, I'm sorry about that. Before talking about climate change, I would like to underline the fact that actually all the socioeconomic trends leading to the emissions or greenhouse gas emissions, which result in climate change, are actually resulting in many other environmental problems. So I am not saying that climate change is not important, but it's a part of a series of problems which simply based on more or less the very same reasons. So this is very important. That's why I wanted to start with this. This could be interesting. I don't know whether you are familiar with this study, but within less than 10 years, we will need a second planet, simply because we are using way more resources than we can renew. And this is not like a joke. This is a very serious study by Global Footprint Network. And greenhouse gas emissions, again, is one of the many other problems which lead to this fact. And we all know that at least in the near future, it's not likely to come up with a second planet, even if we want that. So simply we need to ask the question of what do we do, or how do we simply fit on our planet? There are two related terms, linear and circular economic growth. Basically, the difference is whether the use of natural resources is coupled to economic growth or quality of life in turn or not. The effort of uncoupling resource consumption from economic growth is the shift that we need to make the things in the right direction, turn into the right direction. Now, as an engineer, of course, I have to look at the picture with the relevant tools in order to make a concrete change in real life. This is just a study, among others, which simply indicate different kinds of sustainability tools, which could be used to uncouple the resource consumption from economic growth. Of course, not all of these are focused on environment. As you see, we have different pillars of sustainability, as you are all familiar with. And I would like to underline the fact that sustainable purchasing that Dr. Davies and Mr. Kahn mentioned is among these sustainability tools. And I just highlighted some of these tools that we are trying to address as environmental engineers. Okay, let's go back to our discussion on climate change. As you know, industry, energy, transportation, agriculture are the major sectors which contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, which in turn lead to climate change. But waste management is among those sectors, significant sectors, which also contribute to the problem. It's a little hard to give an exact number simply because there are different types of waste productions in different sectors, starting with agriculture. For example, animal manure emits a lot of greenhouse gases, but I think it's safe to say around 7 to 8% of the total greenhouse gas emissions originate from waste management activities. So this gives us as environmental engineers a very solid responsibility, because even though it's a little fraction of the total, when you look at the numbers, I believe we can actually make a significant difference. And again, I don't want to go into the details, but simply the message is, if selected, designed, and operated properly, greenhouse gas emissions originating from these waste management activities can be reduced significantly. As already indicated, recycling, composting, anaerobic digestion, either in engineered reactors or landfills, can reduce these greenhouse gases almost up to 75 to 80% in average. A very quick example or two, recycling of aluminum as well as steel, and using it rather than the virgin raw materials may save up to 95% of the energy requirements in these manufacturing processes, and that means a lot of reduction in the relevant greenhouse gas emissions. Anaerobic digestion or biogas production, again, if you look at a roadmap published in 2014 by USDA, EPA, and DOE, we have room to start 11,000 extra anaerobic digestion projects in this country. And other than providing energy equivalent or supplying energy to 3 million American homes, we will be able to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 54 million tons equivalent of carbon dioxide. These are very significant numbers. Okay, environmental engineers. By definition, environmental engineers use the principles of engineering as well as many other science fields to develop solutions to environmental problems. Among others, we work very closely with recycling and waste disposal projects. And we also do a lot of training in terms of climate change and environmental sustainability. This is a definition from US Bureau of Labor Statistics. The reason that I'm using it is these are not like my personal opinions, but this is the general description of the profession. We have a brand new environmental engineering program, little less than a year old. And I would like to address some of the teaching and research efforts which are relevant to climate change discussion. I don't want to be using extra time, but simply when you look at some of the courses as listed on this slide, they address very specific fields of climate change. And several, well over 10 courses taught by different faculty members actually relate to some of the technical discussions with some tools like Mr. Kahn already pointed out. For example, we teach carbon footprint assessment, or again, green or sustainable purchasing, which was already mentioned, is among the topics that we address in some of these courses. So basically, we do our best from the technical side of the subject in terms of training our students. We also offer some elective courses to other colleges and departments so that we can, spread this information to other colleges as well. When it comes to research, we have very research-intensive faculty members in our program. This is one of the projects that we have been working on. This happens to be me and my graduate students. For the last 2 years, thanks a lot for facilities management, Mr. Kahn, again, for providing the food waste samples. Simply, we have been collecting food waste samples with their help from the campus, different locations, different times. And after characterization, we simply subjected all these food waste samples into anaerobic digestion in our laboratory. It's a long study. We were looking at the effects of some additive materials. I'm just skipping those details. But basically, the relevant message to this presentation is the extent of methane specifically, which we achieved in our laboratory-based study. That was 545 cubic meters of methane per metric ton of food waste that we collected from our campus. And before the pandemic, the yearly food waste production was 350 tons a year. Probably we don't have this much, but assuming that we will get back to this number, if we assume that we are able to convert all the food waste that we collect from our campus with exactly the same technology that we have been experimenting, that corresponds to not only a very high amount of renewable energy in the form of biogas, which is over 1,800 kilowatt hours per day, plus we will be reducing the carbon dioxide emissions by over 2,600 tons of carbon dioxide equivalents per year. These are just to give you an idea about our research, how they relate to the climate change discussion. Again, this is just a single example, but there are others underway. Okay, just a couple concluding remarks before I complete my talk. Even though I am an environmental engineer, as a citizen, as a concerned citizen, I have been doing my best, or trying at least, in terms of addressing climate change as again, citizen, not necessarily as an environmental engineer. So I have to underline the fact that climate change is not an environmental problem only. It has many dimensions. I don't know whether you are able to see some of the pictures on the slide. All kinds of different disciplines and stakeholders need to be involved in all of the joint efforts so that we will be able to address many of the concerns in the initial video, as well as the speakers before myself, probably after myself. So social, economic, health-based, and all other justice-related concerns needs to be all on the table to come up with inclusive solution. The second message is, I'm sure most of you are already familiar with some of these tools, but if you look at relevant project studies, different parts of the world, not necessarily this country only, we have all kinds of tools, methods, case studies already available for climate change mitigation and adaptation efforts, both at campus and community levels. So as long as we are able to decide on how to proceed in terms of the subjects which are more important than the others as a community, as a university, then I am sure that we wouldn't be starting from scratch. We can simply use at least some of these existing tools towards a joint effort. As already shared before myself, CMU has several success stories on food waste reduction, sustainability. Definitely, we should build our future work based on all these efforts because that's a very solid baseline. We have very knowledgeable experts, students, departments, colleges. So basically the message is we have to include them all to our, again, joint future activities. And finally, as environmental engineers, as concerned citizens, together, we are ready to do our best in terms of our technical expertise as well as beyond that to contribute to all joint efforts. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dr. Demerer. We really appreciate everything that you've shared. I personally appreciate how you've highlighted that this is not only an environmental problem, but also a problem in other areas of society, a sociological issue, an economic problem, and we really need to come together to help address that. So thank you very much. Next, we have Chloe Majeski, who's a student majoring in meteorology, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about solutions. So, Chloe, can you please tell us, what are we doing here from a student's perspective to help address and implement solutions to the climate crisis?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thanks, Liz, for the introduction. I'm excited to be here, excited that I was offered this spot as the student panelist for this summit. As Liz said, I was asked to offer a student's perspective on what CMU is doing. Pretty much my job is just to recap everything that President Davies has said and that Jay Kahn said, and also Dr. Demerer said. Both President Davies and Jay Kahn talked at length about the food waste program, which is something that, from speaking to fellow students, I know is something that all students are very proud of the university for doing and know it as one of the biggest undertakings that the university is doing as a solution to climate change mitigation. So that is definitely a big deal. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I know Dr. Demerer said we're saving about 350 tons of food by composting it instead of just throwing it off into the landfills. Another thing that I talk to students about is the plastic takeout containers that CMU started this year for the purpose of social distancing and minimizing contact between food service workers and students. But students really see that as another stepping off point for CMU's sustainability because the containers are reusable. And not only is it convenient for students to have these containers. Someone unmuted their mic, please. Thank you. Another big thing is the participating in of this summit this year. This really kicked off last year at the September Climate Solutions March for Climate Justice. That's where I got started involved in this, and I was others as well. 2019 seems so far away, but when CMU did that first Fridays for Future event, which is a event series started by Greta Thunberg, I know that was really a big stepping off point for this event and other events like the Sustainability Conference Summit that have happened on the university. As President Davies and Dr. Demerer mentioned, there are classes offered on campus designed to teach students from all majors about sustainability and environmental issues and climate change, etc. Several of which I'm currently enrolled in or will be enrolled in as a meteorology major, and also as an environmental science minor. President Davies also mentioned our collaboration at Beaver Island, which I know is a big thing for student sustainability as well, and environmental research, not just climate change research, but general environmental protection research, wetland protection research, and such. President Davies also mentioned the multiple RSOs, several of which we have seen tabling videos from, and many more which we'll continue to see tabling videos from. Take Back the Tap, Central Votes, the Central Sustainability Coalition, as well as an organization that I am personally involved in, the student chapter of the American Meteorological Society, which unfortunately we didn't get to make a video for this in time, but as meteorology majors, we are definitely very focused on climate change and climate change sustainability. From a student's perspective, there's also definitely some things that we know that the university could work on. Several people mentioned the university's fleet of vehicles that they use, and just general sustainability with that, because they do go out sometimes quite often and requires gasoline and produces emissions. But on a positive note, I know many people mentioned the CMU's partnership with iRide, which we know public transportation, carpooling, busing is a very good solution to climate change, as it reduces the amount of cars that people are driving on the road and therefore reduces emissions. Definitely, I think personally, one of the things we could do is we've got the only meteorology major for undergraduates in the state of Michigan. Many of us whom go on to research things like climate change, and when I talk to people from other universities, they don't know that the program exists. And we do a great job of touting our business program and our College of Journalism, but I think we could stand to promote more our environmental sciences programs, because we are so well renowned in the state of Michigan. Also, I know President Davies mentioned that there are courses in the works for all majors relating to climate change, but I think those, if they are in the works, need to be streamlined, because I looked at several majors which climate change is an important issue, for example, political science, and there is no political science course directly about climate change policy, neither for business either. And in such important fields in markets that have direct impact on climate change, such courses are definitely necessary, as well as just a general climate change solution class targeted to all majors, because as has been stressed before, this is a interdisciplinary issue. Everyone needs to know about it, because if you've only got the scientists who know about the issue, then we run into the issues we see now where people aren't educated and scientists find themselves trying to run through brick walls, trying to teach people about this who have never been educated in the first place. So really crossing all disciplines, educating people on climate change is definitely something of great importance that the university could do. And as President Davies said, it sounds like is in the works. Another thing that CMU could do is a net zero carbon plan. CMU does not have a net zero carbon plan. The sustainability plan that was released in 2012 says that CMU planned to reduce its carbon emissions by 10% by the year 2020, which is this year. So the plan needs to be reworked. Many other universities in the state of Michigan have, and the whole of the United States, have net zero carbon plans to reach by the year. Most of them are set to reach by the year 2050. But CMU needs to come up with a plan to reach net zero carbon emissions within the next 3 decades, because that is really the turning point that scientists have come out with, that we have to be doing our best to reach net zero by 2050, or else we will see far worse effects than we already see of climate change. Just as like a closing remark, I saw a post on Facebook that was shared with me by a family member, and it said, we need to stop asking leaders, especially leaders in policy, whether or not they believe in climate change. It's not Santa Claus, it's science. We need to start asking people what they know about climate change, because then it really puts the focus on education and understanding, not do you believe in this thing that is definitely happening. We need people who are committed to understanding the issues at hand. And I'm grateful for President Davies and Kahn, who are committed to understanding the issues at hand. And that is something that, we need to press on at a national level, and in a local level, and all over the globe. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you very much, Chloe. I very much appreciated hearing your perspective. And I think especially your emphasis on education and understanding. That's really what we need across the board here, across disciplines, across institutions. So I appreciate you highlighting that important fact. So next, we are able to take a few questions from the audience. We don't have a whole lot of time, but if you have some burning questions that you've been meaning to ask, please put those in the chat. And I'm going to refer to Kelly Lawson, who is an academic advisor for the College of Health Professions, to see what questions have been asked and to pose those to the panel. So, Kelly?
Hi, I do have one question. If people are to make just one change, just one behavior that they could change, what would you recommend that change be to have the greatest amount of impact?
And panelists, if anyone would like to respond, Chloe, Jay, Dr. Davies, if any of you would like to speak to that.
I will quickly start on and answer it in 2 ways. Chloe has some great recommendations and great thoughts. I think that the speeding up of the class, getting classes to the books is an essential part. That's a whole different discussion. But part of sustainability is becoming more efficient and effective. But to the question, I grew up in the West, grew up in a West Coast area where we did a lot of backpacking into the natural wilderness. And our rule was leave no trace. In other words, if you pack in, whatever you pack out everything. You when you pitch a tent, you make sure that when you take it down, that you return the ground to what you can. If you do a small fire, you do everything to put it back. And I think the one thing that we as a community can adopt is that same philosophy of backpacking into the wilderness. Leave no trace.
Other panelists, anyone like to respond?
I would echo that. And education is really a game changer, personally, professionally, culturally, and in society. And so for an individual, I think you can take a look and see what your inputs and your outputs are and educate yourself on what's going on in your own personal life. And And what I always tell students is what are you passionate about? You know, I mean, ask that question. And if you follow your passion and combine that with some type of environmental activism, it doesn't have to be huge. You know, are you gonna make a choice between a plastic water bottle or like President Davies just made? You know, you put down the plastic water bottle and pick up the glass. Those are little things that you can do in your personal life. You need to find your own personal fit and follow your passion, and you will not go wrong.
And to add on to that,
So like she doesn't want to meet us? Yeah.
Someone is unmuted. Hello. Okay. To add to that, like I mentioned, policy is very important. Voting, especially with the election so soon, is very important. Voting for those leaders that you know, not that you think, that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt will do their darndest to implement environmental protection policy, carbon emission reduction plans. That is highly important. And again, like I said, especially with the election so very near in the next couple weeks. And like Jay said, you know, whatever your passion is, there's a way to apply environmental issues and climate change issues and justice to whatever your passion may be. My passion is climate change, so that makes it really easy for me. But you know, if your passion is photojournalism, you know, you can go out and take pictures of the effects of climate change. You know, we all see those heartbreaking pictures of polar bears standing on pieces of ice like that thick. You know, there's always a way to cross disciplines, especially with something that is so broad-reaching as climate change.
Thank you. Kelly, are there any other questions? I think we have time for at least one more.
Yes, we have quite a few questions actually that came through. There is one here, just a question for CMU. Do we have plans to convert the campus staff vehicles to hybrid and or running on renewable resources?
I know that Nick Long is looking at that. Nick is our new VP of Finance and Administration. We are shrinking our motor pool to begin with. And so as we begin that process, is replacing them with cars that mentioned are hybrids and or other things along those lines. We're also looking at the possibility of having charging stations on campus and in various prime locations. I did notice that I think it's over by CHP that there's some prime parking for fuel efficient cars, which I think is very interesting.
One more question, Kelly?
Regarding the efforts of Take Back the Tap, what is the current status of bottled water sales on campus, and especially with the controversial sales of Ice Mountain water from Nestle, and what is CMU's plan forward?
To be honest, I don't know of the controversy with ice water, so I do apologize. There was something I needed to be educating. And I was quickly going on Google to figure out what that was, but I will reach back to Jim Batchelder and discuss that. Cal Sealy is the one that oversees it, and I know that we are pushing the hard container sales over the bottled water. Where that specifically ends, what the shift in sales is, I do not know at this point in time, but I'll follow up with Cal Sealy and get there.
Thank you, President Davies. And Kelly, if you want to, I think there's at least I can see one more question. If you'd like to pose that.
Yeah, and there was one sent to me privately too. What is CMU doing in regards to sustainability research? So
I can answer that one. I know several professors who are doing sustainability research, many of the meteorology staff who I know are watching this, are doing sustainability research and climate change research in relation to severe weather. There is also the research station on Beaver Island that CMU has, and that is a big sustainability research and environmental protection research facility, as well as I know students who attend research opportunities over the summer at other institutions who learn from their professors how to enact sustainability changes, and then bring that knowledge back to CMU and implement it here. Yeah, there's a lot. You can spend quite a good bit of time doing your digging on all the research that professors, especially in the environmental science department, are doing in relation to sustainability.
I'd say on the operations side of the house, we usually include a faculty member for advice and guidance, as well as the students, bring them along for the educational component. Just about everything that we do over in operations includes a faculty member. Some of our faves are Rebecca Yazarski, Liz Bradshaw, Goxel Dimier. Those are our recent faves. Don up at Beaver, he knows what I'm talking about. And it's a great partnership that staff have with faculty, and students really is what glues it all together. So very fortunate.
So do we have time for the last question?
I think if we can keep it within 2 minutes, we have time for one more.
Okay, it's specifically for Jay. What's the hardest part or what difficulties did you and the students face when starting the compost on campus?
Rodents. Yeah. So we had that pile over by baseball, and it was groundhog heaven. So yeah, you gotta kind of watch. This is, as you do these things, you kind of learn along the way a little bit, and but it certainly wasn't for lack of effort. We had tons of that.
All right. Well, thank you so much to all of our CMU panelists. I greatly appreciate all of the knowledge that you've shared, all the initiatives that we're doing here at CMU. And I appreciate you as well, Kelly, for posing those questions. So next up, we are going to show some of our tabling videos here, and we will be reconvening at 10:30. We're going to have a wonderful panel of community experts to talk about what we're doing here in Mount Pleasant and the local area to address solutions to climate change. And then following that, we'll have our keynote speaker, Dr. Andy Hoffman, who will be talking about solutions within the market and within our culture to solutions to climate change. So stay tuned. We'll be back in 10 minutes at 10:30.
Thank you very much, and fire up and mask up.
Thank you, President Davies. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Chloe.